Hello, Dr. Hashmi here. This is my second video on presentation skills. In my first video, I talked about, just a very quick recap, is know yourself. As I always say, if you know yourself better, you will do better. So the first thing is, are you a person of mind or a heart? If you're a person of mind, your presentation is likely to be more factual. If you're a person of heart, your presentation is likely to be more conceptual. One issue. The other thing is always acquire good understanding of the subject. You don't have to pass all the information you know on the subject to the listener, just enough. Hence the slides got to be carrying information between 5 to 10 pieces of information. You can chunk them together to display more information, but most certainly the slides must not be overpopulated. Otherwise, everything will be lost. Remember, irrespective of the fact how important information you want to pass to the listener, the information the listener's going to retain is the one which is provided in the right manner. So, importance of the information is unnecessary. The method information is relayed to a listener is integral to our retention and registration of information, and sometimes information is retained for life. Now, the third thing is always use the language you have good command on. So subject command, language command is important. Tell people that in the end of it, you are going to ask them one learning point from your presentation and everybody got to give you a different point of learning. And that's a good way of bringing closure to the presentation. This video is primarily to talk about 3 important things of presentation or passing information. One, state-dependent learning, which one can use very effectively to spread your information. Number 2, primary and recency effect of our memory. And number 3, the emotional component which we can bring to our presentation. What happens is, if we add an emotional content to our presentation, we won't forget it ever. Because that is emotional element of learning is very strong. I give you my own example. Years and years ago, me and my wife were fooling around in central London and we came across a very large posh building. So we didn't know that building is of Coutts Bank. We entered. A gentleman, a posh gentleman, very dressed up, opened up the door. We went in. We felt quite interestingly embarrassed and we came out in 30 seconds. The gentleman opened the door for us again. Later we learned that it was Coutts Bank, which deals with top-end millionaires, very, very wealthy people. And you just don't enter that bank with 20 quid in your pocket. Now, whatever that experience was, if you ask me to draw the hall and the layout of that bank, I can draw it now, even today. I could still remember clearly the gentleman who actually opened and closed the door for us. Yeah. What was that? It was the emotional content of that experience that made it possible for me and my wife to learn it, to register it forever. We still laugh about it. So Can you see the emotional element to learning? How strong it is? Then, what is state-dependent learning? Most psychology books talked about that if you are in a specific state and you learn any piece of information, when you expose yourself to that similar state again, you are going to recall that information. It is not only the physical environment of state dependent, it's actually the whole emotional element, the psychological element, and the environment, the physical environment in which the learning has taken place. So if you are going to do a presentation, ideally you should go have a look around and make the environment unique, something which people could remember. Now in most cases we can't do that because the rooms are very standard, chairs are laid out for us already, you go in, the equipment already fixed, people have been using that room for quite some time, they are quite used to of it, there is nothing new in it. So what can you bring to make it unique? I generally do something stupid so that people could remember. It can be as simple as you dropping your mobile phone intentionally and spend a few seconds checking it up whether you have not broken it, or throwing your keys on the floor, yeah, or look just funny. Now if you are not naturally a funny person, it will be very hard, but you can do things which make the environment, attach something to that environment which gives it a unique flavor. Like for example, scratch your head. Now half of you, when you scratch your head, you might remember this presentation of mine. I've already created the state-dependent learning element of it because first video I was wearing a flowery shirt. This video I'm wearing a high neck, a black high neck. So I've already made that difference. State-dependent learning happens. It is integral part of presentation skills, passing information to the listeners. Yeah, always use that. Make the environment unique to your presentation, even if the walls are empty, even the chairs are boring and the equipment is fixed on the wall for the last 10 years. Make it unique for doing something as simple as dropping your keys on the floor, picking it up and counting it. People will remember that. Now, then the third thing is primary and recency effect. The way our memory works, we remember things at the start, we remember things at the bottom, we'll forget the middle. Again, BBC News. Watch BBC News carefully and you will see this technique is used in its best effective manner. If I give you a list of 10 items, you will remember the first 3 and the last 3. The middle 4, gone. You won't register that. Hence, in all presentation skills, bring this technique into action. In the end of your presentation, repeat the salient points, not paragraphs, not speeches, salient points, so that people can remember and the listeners can take home the message. 1, make your environment unique to your presentation. Number 2, bring some emotional component to your learning, the message you are passing on to the listeners. 3, remember primacy and recency effect, the top and the bottom bit of information. And the last one, it doesn't matter how important your information is. If the listener is not going to retain that, it's pointless. Our minds are full of useless information And the reason is that useless information is passed on to us in a very effective manner. Thank you.